அக்கா தமைந்தி அக்கா அப்பா அப்பா இருக்கு. இதோ வந்துரும், அவர் வந்தாச்சு ஆன்லைன்ல.
Yeah, I saw yeah, thank you. So yes, so good evening everyone. Thanks again for your patience, and we had a bit connection issues.
தமைந்தி அக்கா அப்பா இருக்கு. இதோ வந்துரும், அவர் வந்தாச்சு ஆன்லைன்ல.
Yes, so Arunji, please go ahead.
Yeah, maybe it might be easier if you mute everybody and then they can unmute themselves when they want to talk. That way it'll be nice. Okay, so yeah, well, I say welcome all the way from my family. I say Mamta and Suru Sadhna all the way from Canada. So welcome, and then Radnibai and Arunaben from Mauritius, of course, Dipti from Tanzania, and then all the others. Also, yes, my family, I would like to say. Wife, family, yes. Okay, let's start from the starting. The topic for today is non-violence. And non-violence is a very, if you like, a very big word, because it's very delicate. It's very difficult to define non-violence because it varies from one person to other and our own interpretation as to how we see it. We all understand these things because we all come from different backgrounds, you know, spiritual backgrounds, religious backgrounds. We're all from different places, different countries, and yet we understand these human values because these human values are what makes us human. Human in the sense that these values of you know, Satya, Dharma, Shanti, Prem, Ahimsa, the 5 human values, they unite us. And actually, these are the values that should even bring us closer when we are connecting to these human values. But these human values, if you like, they exist within us. And so we have to make sure that they are really existent in us and become aware of that. And as spirituality says that we have to first try and get self-knowledge. Once we have that knowledge within us, once within the self, then only we can get that illumination. And that illumination can take ages or it can come in an instant. So, but the effort has to be made by each and every individual. So this is what unites us. So when it comes, we've been talking about all these human values, very nice, but they are all interlinked. You can't have one value higher than the others because it's like, you know, the 5 fingers, and they're all exactly of equal importance. Try to remove one finger and try and do some work, and you'll immediately realize that one finger is missing. It's not that, you know, okay, this little finger is there, no, the thumb is stronger. So it varies from one person to the other. So we give equal importance to the 5 fingers. The same way the 5 human values of truth, love, peace, nonviolence, equal value should be given. And so we are going to focus more on non-violence. So non-violence is, as I said, a big word. But what is non-violence? There are two kinds of non-violence. One, on one side, we have the internal non-violence, and the other side, we have the external. So we have to be aware of both these non-violences. So if we need to find similar words, or if we need to find words befitting or trying to describe non-violence, it could be benevolence, compassion, concern for others, consideration, cooperation, forbearance, forgiveness, good behavior, happiness, loyalty, morality, universal love, citizenship, equality, harmlessness, perseverance, unity, appreciation of others, respect for property, national awareness, social justice, fellowship of humankind, service to others, appreciation of others, cultures, and religion. So these are kind of, there's an overlap with the other values as well. So as if we look at the internal one, internal says, how can I be, internal? Because sometimes if you give too much of yourself, you're being violent to yourself. So we have to be aware of our own selves, and we have to be, if you like, patient, loving, understanding with our own selves, because our biggest enemy is ourselves, and we judge ourselves the harshest. We are brought up trying to appreciate all the others and the work that is being done by the others, but at the same time we have to keep in mind that we, as an individual human being, we have within us that divine spark, which is what keeps us all alive. Divine spark can be translated as the Atma, or the soul. And this is what keeps us alive. So with that in mind, we have to be non-violent with the body, with our thoughts, and also how we take within our body. So sometimes, we tend to overeat, and what happens? We have health issues. So we have to be non-violent with our body as far as food is concerned, as far as drink is concerned, because sometimes, we drink the wrong things. As research has shown, sugary drinks are bad for health. We found out that alcohol to a certain extent is very bad for health. The type of food you eat is very bad. But, rising above that, including all cigarettes and drugs and all that, we know that it is bad for the body. So when you consume these things, we are being harmful to ourselves. We are being non-violent. So that also we have to be aware. But apart from that, the intake is not only through the mouth, but also through the eyes and through the ears, because what we hear, the food that we eat, sorry, not the food, the thought process, the food for thought, as we call it, that also has got to be non-violent, because what happens is it has an effect, direct effect on us. So this means, what we read, that is through the eyes, what we watch on TV, there's a lot of garbage out there now with easy access to internet and mobile phones. There's also a lot of, as we said, a lot of garbage on the internet. And so we cannot just take everything in, because that affects our minds, and that we are being non-violent. We are being violent with our minds. So we have to be aware of that violence, and be aware that we can be easily be influenced by the thoughts. And people are sometimes quite smart at presenting things and say their point of view, but then quite often that point of view could be distorted. So to keep our minds free, we have to, as we talked just now, be aware, have that self-knowledge, and also be aware that somehow we are governed. So the example today that we had was, we had everything planned nicely, but then the Zoom did not work, and then it worked. So there is some force external governing all of us, and we have to be very much aware of that. So coming an example, a story on the thought process is, there was a king, and the king was always going around conquering different lands, and wanting to add more and more and more land to his own kingdom, to growing the kingdom. And then as they are all going back after having won 20 kingdoms, and how he is the great king of his own kingdom, plus the 20 others that he has conquered, and he's going. So they stop in the forest during the night, and the king is awake, and he looks out of his tent, and he sees far away some kind of a light, a very special light. So he says, I need to go to that light. What is that? So in the morning, he tells his minister that find out what that place is on top of the mountain. So the minister says that, Your Majesty, that is where a very holy person lives. And if you want, I can go bring him by the neck to you. And he says, no, we have done that all throughout all the 20 kingdoms that we have won. We all brought the kings through force and they all bow down to me. To this person, he's shown some kind of a special divine light. And I want to be aware of, I want to see what the divine light is. So he says, I will go tomorrow. And so he dresses up in the morning, nice, beautiful king, clothes, crown, everything on his head. And he starts climbing the hill. And halfway, a disciple of that guru stops him, says, the guru says, don't come now. Be dressed properly and then come. So the king comes down, a bit disappointed, but then he says, okay, I'll come down. He goes down and then he thinks over. He says, yes, but I'm not going to meet another king. If I want to meet another king, then I have to dress up nicely. No, I'm going to meet a holy person. So I should dress accordingly. So he wears simple clothes and he goes there the next day. And halfway through, again, the disciple stops him. Stop. The guru says, you only come properly dressed. So the king goes down. The minister again says, hang on, shall I go and bring that the guru? The king says, no. Third day, the king wears a simple cloth around his waist and another cloth on top of his shoulders, goes up halfway. The disciple says, the guru says, you can only come when you are properly dressed. So the king comes down and he thinks deeply and goes within, and he realizes that he had done wrong because he had practiced a lot of non-violence. He had done a lot of killing, a lot of destruction. And then he feels bad that, no, that is not the right way of living life. And while he's thinking of all that, and that awareness comes of that within him, awareness of his being violent and deciding to practice non-violence, and suddenly there's a noise and he opens his eyes and that guru is standing in front of him. And he realizes that the clothes, the properly dressed, is not the external clothes, but the internal clothes. Internally, we have to be ready to meet the guru, the spiritual master, and we have to be ready. So, as I said earlier, that self-knowledge is the best purifier. If we have that proper self-knowledge, then only we can meet higher. And we have to, at the end of the day, we are all aware, I don't need to repeat that we are born alone and we are going to leave the world alone. So we have all the family, friends, everybody's there. But at the end of the day, this is only me and my mind, me and my soul. So the whole process should not be to accumulate wealth, because when we are born, we come empty-handed. And when we leave, we will leave empty-handed. So even the body, we will leave behind. So if we become aware of that more and more, so we focus on our conscious and we'll focus on raising ourselves spiritually. And that, we through these human values and through self-inquiry within, that's how we can raise ourselves spiritually. Even great men, they sometimes get lost. A funny story. There was a time when from the Mahabharata, this story is taken, where Yudhishthir was known as, Dharma Raja. He was always telling the truth. He would never tell a lie. So one day, a beggar comes to his place and says, please give me food or whatever. And Yudhishthira says, fine, you come tomorrow. I will give it to you tomorrow. And so the beggar goes away, a little bit unhappy, but he goes away. On his way, he meets Bhima, the younger brother of Yudhishthira, and says, yes, what happened? He says, no, your brother said, come tomorrow and he'll give me food and gold and whatever tomorrow. So Bhima comes back and he plays the bugle and all that. And everybody's wondering, what happened, Bhima? Have we won a war? What happened? You know, he says, my great brother, he has won war over time, because nobody knows whether we will live tomorrow or not. And my brother has conquered time. He knows that he will be alive tomorrow. And so it's something to celebrate. And Yudhishthira is really ashamed and he said, oh my God, I never realized that this is what I had done. So he says, please, apologies, go and call the beggar. The beggar is brought back and Yudhishthira gives him immediately. So often when we are young, we think that, now I'm too young to practice any of these spirituality and try and understand things. No, I still have time. But unfortunately, we don't have time. We don't know how much time we have. So this is how, you know, funny story where Yudhishthira. And then similar story with Karna. Many of you know Karna was known as the greatest donor. So one day, to test him, you know, Krishna goes to several people and says, I need special wood, sandalwood, dry sandalwood. So many people tell him that we're sorry, we cannot give you the sandalwood because it's rainy season, so we don't have dry wood. And he goes to Karna, and Karna says, well, I don't have wood by itself, but I have doors made out of sandalwood. So I can give you those doors and you can use them for whatever purpose you want. And he starts removing the doors and says, here are the doors. And Krishna says, but Krishna was dressed as a beggar and says, why do you say this? Why are you giving me? He says, yes, because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Today, you have come to ask and I'm alive. Tomorrow, I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm giving it to you today. And then Krishna was very happy with him. So these little stories, they are told, they're told to us to keep in mind all the things that happen. So we come back to the external violence. We talked about the internal violence, about, you know, controlling our thought, words, body. We talked about the internal, what you call, whatever, if we ingest, what we take within us. So become aware of that. But also, and this is why I will just quickly chant. I think almost all of you are aware of this mantra that we chant at night. Karacharana kritam vakayajam karma jamva shravana, listening, nayana jamva manasam, thoughts, manasam va aparadam vihitam avihitam va sarva metat kshamasva jai jaya karunabde Shri Mahadeva Shambhu. So what we are saying is this, that if I have made a mistake through my hands or my feet. Why feet? Because when we are walking, we might even step on little insects that we are not aware of. So through my hands, through my feet, through my mouth, through my words, or through listening. So even listening bad things about others or bad things, or through the eyes if we see something bad, or even the thoughts, because we can destroy, we can think bad about people, that also we are harming them. So through them, and then Shravana Nayana Jamva Manasam Va Aparas, if I made a mistake, Vihitama, knowingly, or avihitam, unknowingly. So we can be doing things unknowingly and we might be hurting. So for all that, this is a prayer that we generally chant at night before going to sleep. And we ask for forgiveness to the higher Lord, whoever, whatever God you believe in, but we ask forgiveness and saying, please forgive me if I've done any wrong. So that it says quite a lot. And what happens is that when you practice this thing, slowly over time, you become aware. You become aware that at night I'm asking for forgiveness. So here I am committing that mistake. So it'll stop you from committing that mistake. So, like there was this guy, a young boy, and he was very, very devoted. He used to pray quite a lot. So one day, he's there um, sitting in a holy place and reading a holy book. And there are several others who are also reading a holy book. And then he says, and then he suddenly notices that everybody has gone to sleep. And he says, I am awake, and then suddenly a divine form comes in front of him and says, my child, what do you say? And he says, yes, my father, look at all these people. They're all sleeping. Only I am aware. I'm awake and I'm the only one praying. And that holy figure says, my child, it would have been better that you also be asleep, because at least you would not be thinking bad about them. I would rather that you sleep rather than talking bad about them. So we say, it is said that when we talk bad about somebody, we are washing away their sins. So it is better to wash away our own sins than washing sins of others. Like, the story of this woman, every single day, she used to complain. Sorry, my light has gone off. Just 1 second. Okay. Okay, so every day, she used to complain to her husband, look at his neighbor, from the house opposite. Her clothes are so dirty. She's every day, I don't know how she washes her clothes. The clothes are dirty and they are just sitting there looking really bad. So this goes on for about 2 weeks. And then one morning, she wakes up and she looks out of the window and the clothes are all nice and clean. So she tells her husband, hey, listen, look. Today, she has finally woken up and look at her clothes. The clothes are nice and clean today. And the husband says, my dear, what has happened is this, that our window was dirty. Today, this morning, I cleaned our window and that's why you can see clearly. So quite often, we put the blame on our others instead of trying to examine ourselves, instead of trying to have that self-inquiry that let me not judge too quickly, because maybe I judged wrong. And as Mother Teresa had said that if you spend too much time, thanks Mamta for joining. If you spend too much time on criticizing or judging, you won't have time to love them. So our point is to be aware of ourselves and being nonviolent. But then we come to the external nonviolence. So external nonviolence, people over many years had forgotten the violence that we have committed to the external, to things outside us. So not only to other people, but to the atmosphere. We have to keep this question in our mind that when we talk to, when we use bad things, like factories, industries, all that, without caring for the industry, without caring for the air that we breathe in, what we breathe in, and then the generations to come after us, we are destroying the planet Earth. We've destroyed the ozone layer. So we have to be aware of that. So we are being violent to the Mother Earth, and how much junk we throw in the air, on Earth. We have to be aware of that as well. So at least in Switzerland, I don't know about other countries, but at least we are aware of, we're made aware quite a lot of this. And then, so we try and separate all the things like bottles, glass, plastic, and then even the foodstuffs, we keep it aside, foodstuff, I mean, peels and this thing, and that will be used as compost. So organic waste. And so we are doing all that because we do not want to be violent. And quite often in some places, people will clean their house and then throw everything out of the window. That again is a lot of violence. So there's a story of this boy who was, a young man who was 18 years old, and he always had problems with his family because his father and mother, they were always telling him, switch off the light. You don't need the light, switch it off. Want not, waste not. Switch off the light when you go out of the room each time. Close the tap. We can afford to pay for the water, but imagine that if for the whole year you have to pay, let's say one franc or $1 for the wasted water, fine, we can afford it. But look at it this way, that in a country population of Switzerland is 8 million. So this is 8 million people. Out of 8 million, let's say 4 million people have this kind of attitude, and 2 million people, okay, allow the water to run through. So 2 million, 2 million francs worth of water is being wasted. So what happens? The country has to produce more. So look at it from that point of view, on a larger scale. Oh, I can afford to pay 1 franc a year, but if 2 million people are doing that, that means the country has to produce 2 million francs worth of water, which is just being wasted. So are we not being violent with the Mother Earth, with the water, with our resources? So, we have to be non-violent as far as, time is concerned, wasting time, wasting money, wasting energy. So coming back to this young man, so his father always, and he used to hate all these stories, and he said, I just want to be, as soon as I'm 18, I will be independent, I will get a job, and then I will go and live on my own. And he's waiting just for that. And then he finally gets called for an interview. So as he enters the building, right outside, there's water running. So he closes the tap. He says, yeah, I'll close this tap. And then as he's going, it's bright daylight and the light is on. He says, why is the light on? Let me switch off the light. So he switches off the light and goes further, and he sees a chair upside down. So he says, oh, somebody has put the chair up. So he puts the chair properly in its place. And he goes there, and there are about 10 other young people waiting for an interview. And then suddenly, the secretary calls him inside, and the boss says, you're hired. And he said, what do you mean you're hired? You haven't asked me any questions. He says, no, but you had to sit for a test. And we wanted to see who can pass this test. He says, with all the other 10 people who were outside, everybody passed on that same road, same building. Nobody decided to turn the tap off or switch off the light or put the chair properly, but you were conscientious enough to do it. So he says, you are hired, because we need somebody who is aware of his surroundings, and he doesn't want to be violent. He wants to practice non-violence with everything all around him. So he was and then he comes back, obviously, and then tells his parents that, Papa, Mama, I'm really grateful to you because you helped me, and because of you, I could manage to get a job, because you were telling me all this every day, and subconsciously it became part of me, and I acted accordingly. So this is what happens when you become aware. At times we think that no, this is not important, it's just going to be unimportant, but somewhere down the line it is quite helpful. When we say, when we talk about non-violence, at that prayer that I just said, there are cultures, some religions, I think Jains do that, and some others, they wear a mask. I mean, now we do, all of us do that, but they do it because they do not want to be violent to the germs, because they feel that if they ingest the germs will die. And some people, Buddha was known that when he would walk, he'd walk very carefully because he did not want to crush all the little insects and all that. So, we again talk about the non-violence which comes from within, because we get influenced, like some of the movies that we watch, and we have lots of violence in these movies, and we feel, nah, that's nothing, I'm strong enough to understand. But somehow, somewhere, it does affect us in the longer run. So we have all these intelligent, very bright, outstandingly bright people all around us. And what some of these people, what have they done to use their brains? They have managed to produce guns. They produce bombs. So instead of using your brains, your intelligence to produce something else, they've become violent, and they produce that. And with a gun, the only thing you can think of is, killing. And this is what's happening in the world, that the guns are being used to kill all the innocent people, sometimes whatever, but also bombs. Bombs are also being used to destroy. So, this is where non-violence comes in, that we take care within us. We take care of our brains, that how can we control our brains? So self-knowledge, self-inquiry, and always being aware of our brains and aware of what and how. And discrimination is also very important, because you see, and with discrimination comes also the thought process that we should not be rushing into judging people. So, you see somebody with a knife in their hands. So do you think that this person is being violent? Depends what that person is doing with the knife. So if it's a surgeon, the surgeon is trying to save the body. So whether the surgeon is holding a knife or a killer is holding a knife. So if we have that vision and the understanding that, yes, so that the surgeon is trying to save a life, wants to prevent harm being done to a patient, or the murderer wants to kill. So that vision we've got to. And talking of vision, a story comes to my mind that, sometimes, let's say, I take a 10 franc note or a 50 franc note, and I say, who wants it? And everyone say, I want it. And then I crumpled it completely and I throw it on the ground. And now who wants it? People will be ready to take it because they've got that vision. They know that this is not an ordinary piece of paper. This has got value. So whether it is crumpled or not crumpled, it is still money. It has got value. So that should trigger something, that we have got to have that vision within us, that what is valuable to our mind, what is valuable to our life, and pay more attention to that life. Like the last talk we talked about, we have that waves. Instead of paying attention to the waves, we pay attention to the ocean. So and we become aware that non-violence brings about peace, and peace will bring about love, Non-violence also is dharma, that's duty, and that also brings you truth. And this is why we become, or rather we are always chanting Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. May all the worlds be happy, because we do not want to be violent to them. So we are wishing them peace, non-violence. So we are praying for them, because we know that even though we come as an individual, and yet we are unhappy if our surroundings are unhappy. If people around us are unhappy, we are unhappy. When we hear about the problems of COVID in that country or that country, a silent prayer runs out of your mind that, please God, help them. If there's an earthquake, like there was an earthquake in Indonesia, so again we pray, please God help. So if they are unhappy, we are unhappy, because we are part of this whole world, and everything is all linked. And we find that violence happens when you have lack of self-confidence. So when we have that self-confidence, we are satisfied, and we will not try and judge anybody, and will not be violent to that person or to anybody else, because we are happy. We are aware of our own selves, and for us that is important. Like this story, a wise minister always said that he had this habit of, yeah, everything happens for the best. So one day, the king is standing near the door, and the door suddenly closes, and the king's little finger is cut off. And then when the minister hears about it, he says everything happens for the best. And the king is very unhappy and very angry. And he says, put him straight into the prison. So the minister is put into the prison. And the king says, what do you have to say to that? He says, everything happens for the best. So the king is even more angry, and he says, goes away. And then a couple of days later, the king goes hunting out in the forest, and suddenly gets lost. And what happens? There's a tribe that captures him, and they want to kill him, because they said, we want to offer you as a sacrifice to our spiritual master. So they catch him, and as they're about to kill him, they suddenly examine him, and they find that his little finger is missing. They said, oh, you are not a perfect human being. We cannot offer you to our master. So go away. And so the king goes away, and the king is very happy. So he comes back and apologizes to the minister, saying, I'm really sorry I put you in jail, because yes, what happened was for the best, that my little finger got cut. So he says, but what about you? I put you in the jail. So what happened? So is it also for the best? And the minister says, yes, that also for the best. And says, how come? He says, if I would have not been in jail, I would have been with you, and we would have gone to that forest. They would have left you, and they would have caught hold of me, and I would have been killed by them. So everything happens for the best. So these little stories, they bring us this awareness of the importance of having that patience and having that understanding within us that everything happens for the best. And at all costs, we try our best to practice these human values that we talked about, the truth, peace, love. So we always emphasize on love, but everything, it just all goes hand in hand, that everything is together. But today we talked about non-violence. It's 6:45, so I've taken a little time, but now we'll just open for discussion. So if people would like to say something, comment something, and please go ahead. comments, questions? Your mic is off, so we cannot hear you. Vijayba, you can switch on your mic. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. While we were talking about non-violence, just thought came to me that right now we all are talking about the disease corona. So I said, to eradicate corona, we are all taking vaccine, and but to do the thought which is inside us, to non-violent thought, just which is kind of a disease too, and how we eradicate that. So everybody will talk about vaccines. So we'll talk, just thought came in my mind. We all need to take the vaccine of love. There's inside love in us that will eradicate those bad thoughts. And once the bad thought, which caused the nonviolence, goes away, and that will give us the good thought, which will lead to the good action. So the vaccine of love will prevent us from non-violence. So those thoughts came in my mind while talking about the non-violence, just that taking the vaccine of love that will eradicate the bad thought which cause the non-violence. So
Yeah,
I just
beautiful.
thought I'll share that.
That's a very beautiful thought that you have. Yes, yes. And recently I was thinking that, when somebody's got fever, we take tablets, to eradicate the fever. But what happens is like what you're saying, that fever within the mind, and how do we eradicate that? And one of them is, practicing love, and also satsang, like we are doing now, that we are all together, like-minded people with love and wanting to get ahead spiritually. And so this is the medicine that we are taking, that by being all together and with the hope, and then the effect should be slowly that we get rid of all these bad things which are embedded within us. Any comments? Florina has also joined.
I think Miss Ines, she wants to say something. Yeah. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, Arun. It was a wonderful lesson to me. I'm very happy for this. Really, it's great to be together and to learn together and to get stronger in the spiritual way. I think we have a great opportunity with Sai Baba to know, or from Indian culture, to know mantras, and mantras of devotion to the divine have been chanted for millions of years. And that's something that is an extremely strong thought form. So when we chant this, we just make the relationship to this, we get connected to this very strong thought form. And this helps us have much strength, even in our body. And this helps us get through this pandemic situation easily. And you mentioned this one mantra for the night. Thank you so much. And we know others we know. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ines, for your thoughts. So Avilo is, from Fribourg, saying love is the vaccine against violence. Excellent. Thank you very much. Yeah. So yeah, it is quite always challenging to be aware at all times, and as we're saying, that Kalacharana Kritam Vakai. Vak is the words. So the words, last time I had also mentioned that story about how you say it. And I read a similar story where, the king has a dream. And in the dream, he says, uh, from his mouth, all his teeth have fallen out. And he doesn't know what that means. And so he calls one minister, and the minister says, oh, this is a very bad dream. This means that all the king's relatives are going to die, and the king will be all alone. And so the king is very furious, and the kings are known to be like hot-tempered. So he says, okay, put him in the jail for giving me such bad news. And he calls another minister and says, okay, interpret this dream for me. And so he interprets the other dream, the same dream, and the other minister, and the minister says, oh, such a beautiful dream you've had. You have such a long life. You're going to live such a long life. You will outlive all your relatives and your friends, and you'll be, of ripe age. And so the king is very happy. He says, yes, I will have a long life. And then after 30 seconds, he thinks and says, hang on, this is exactly what the other guy had told me. But the other guy had put it in a negative way, that everybody is going to die. And this guy is not mentioning the death, but he's just mentioning life. So that way, I find that being aware is very important. And I mentioned non-violence, but non-violence is such a delicate subject because it's so personal. The interpretation is so different. Again, I'll take the example from the Mahabharata. We had the Bhishma. Bhishma was so intelligent. He had all the knowledge of everything, from warfare to how to manage kingdom, how to negotiate peace, and everything, all the knowledge of all the scriptures. And yet he was condemned. Why? Because when it came to Draupadi being, her clothes being removed, he remained silent. He remained silent. And so that he thought by being silent, he was being non-violent. But no, by being silent, he allowed the injustice to happen. And that was a big violence. And why, at that point, why, the question we have to ask is because of what he was eating. He was eating the food that was coming from Duryodhana, the bad guy. So we come back again to our intake. Intake, I said, through the eyes, through the ears, through the mouth, through the nose. So what we intake, we have to make sure that, is this the right thing that I'm eating? Because the food that we take in can create violence within us. So we have to really be aware of what we take in. Fine, people do what they want. It's none of my business. I'm not here to condemn everybody, but people are aware that by eating sattvic food helps you in your spiritual mind, eating the right food. And because they say that when an animal is slaughtered, the animal knows that it is being slaughtered, and it goes into a big shock, produces chemicals, and the chemicals remain in its body. And that is when it is consumed, all those thoughts, bad thoughts that come within us. And so we have to be careful, depending upon what path you want to go on. But being aware of this is very important. that what we take in through the eyes, through the ears, through the mouth, important. So being aware of that is very, very important. And unfortunately, we do not give as much thought. And this is why, many people do that before eating, they they say a short prayer to kind of clean the food before eating. So that also helps us being non-violent. The food is kind of, if there has been a violent thought during the process of preparation of the food, that is subdued, then of course we leave it to the divine will. But at least from our side, we make an effort on our sides. So again,
we have to be very thankful that we are in the fivefold.
Yes, definitely.
Because that reminds us, all the time,
Yes.
Because actually we all know all these things, and what happens, that we just don't pay attention, like you said, you have to be aware all the time, but we just don't pay attention, and some of the things, which are very obvious, but even then we keep on making the same mistake again and again. So the satsangs are very, very important.
Yeah, satsang, being with the right company. Because we can get, because it's one of the previous times we were talking about it, that if everybody is doing it, but it is wrong, I know it is wrong, but everybody is doing it, so I can also do it. And we think that way, and we don't have the courage to say, no, I'm sorry, I will not do it. It takes a lot of courage. It's much easier to just say, yes, okay, everybody is, stealing, so I will also steal, because I don't have the courage to say, no, it's bad, I'm not going to steal. So you don't have the courage, so you'll also go on to bad. So again, you're being violent outside, external, and violent within. And you were saying satsang, yes, this, and for me, this is, kind of double bonus I get, because when I'm preparing, I read, so it just goes. And the beauty of it is this, that alternate Saturdays, I attend a human values course, and Ines is part of that group, the ESE group. And so I attend that, and I learn and understand quite a lot. And then I do research and I read, so it helps me, and then I share it with you also. It's kind of double bonus. So thank you for Kalacharam. Thank you, Damayanti, for organizing this, and I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Arun.
Thank you. We enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you very much for your all for this talk on human values. And on behalf of Kalacharam, we would like to thank you, and also all the participants who are joining us since this February. So thank you very much. And Kalacharam look forward to promote this type of discussion in the future. So we will definitely inform you. Arunji, you have any? We will make the announcement maybe next week. So we keep you in touch. Please stay tuned with us. Kalacharam, we have Facebook, YouTube, and website. So please contact us if you have any matter to discuss, which are related to everyone. So please, thank you again for your support. Thank you, Arunji.
Yeah, and I would just like to add that, when we are all together, what happens is this, that everybody contributes, because nobody has all the answers. So everybody can contribute, and then we can all learn from each other and make that, good combination. So thank you.
I think that is the key. We learn from each other.
Learn from each other, yes.
Very true.
Even from a child, we learn new things. So
we have a few messages on the chat, Arunji. So I think Daniel, he joined later, but he had to leave. So he put a message, dear Kalacharam, sorry, I could reach the conference very late, but now need to leave. So tell Arun and all participants all the best. I enjoyed to meet another time. And also we have a message from Jan. Very nice lecture. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, Jan has joined all the way from Trinidad.
Yeah.
Jan and Sherry.
Yeah, sorry, we were a bit late. Sorry, but it was very. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We have
Dip,
message from Sivagangai. Happy New Year to all. Yeah, we are going to have the Tamil Ugadi New Year very soon next week.
yes.
And from
Happy New Year.
Yeah, thank you. Happy New Year. From Avilo, we are also very grateful for this opportunity. Excellent satsang with deep appreciation.
Yeah, Avilo is from Freebook, and also Daniel Gumi, he lives in the Freebook region.
Oh, okay. Okay. And Trivan, Pal, thank you very much for very valuable messages. From Sai, very nice messages, Arun Bhai. From Deepti Mohjaria, thank you. Appreciate for giving us this opportunity.
Dipti
So
is
thank you
from,
once again to everyone because you are
Dipti-
joining from different zone.
yeah, Dipti is from Tanzania, my sister.
Yeah. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So Suru and Sadhna, Radni Bhai, Aruna Ben for joining.
Thank you,
Lorena, and then
Vasandan uncle, and
Vasantan,
yeah, thank you very much.
Shivakumar, Girish, Vijay Bhai and Bhabi,
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Ines, Srivan Singmangai, Nita, I will not say thank you.
Oh, yes, you should. I will say, on behalf of Kalacharam, I will say, everyone, thank you so much.
And Neeraj and Pooja, oh, they've just logged off. So Neeraj and Pooja also, they joined. So, okay, so
Okay, Saram.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. And Happy New Year. Happy New Year, yeah, to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.